The shocking test of Job, how this man's faith challenged heaven and earth. Few knew what truly happened that night. In the land of Uz, a turning point approached. Job, a man of incredible wealth and unshakable faith, faced a storm no one could see brewing above him. The sky darkened, swirling with tension and anticipation, as if the heavens themselves held their breath. Job was known not just for his riches, but for his unwavering devotion to God. People whispered legends of his piety, tales that traveled far beyond the sun-baked sands and rustling olive trees of his homeland. But that night was different. With the flames flickering like dancing spirits, Job laid awake, his heart pounding. It wasn't just another restless night, it felt electric, charged with a force only known to the divine. Suddenly, amidst the stillness, a shadow crept out of sight, lurking in the corners of spiritual awareness. An enemy, deceptive and dark, awaited an opportunity to strike. What unfathomable challenge awaited Job? The air thickened, filling his lungs with an ominous weight. Then, as dawn broke, a messenger arrived, breathless and wide-eyed. "Your oxen. Your sheep. All are gone." Panic gripped Job's heart, yet his face remained calm, a picture of controlled chaos. As each news of tragedy poured forth, waves of disbelief crashed around him like thunder. His family, his fortune, his very existence were being tested. Still, in the chaos of despair, Job clung to faith. Would his resolve hold against the relentless storms brewing above? As whispers echoed among the onlookers blending disbelief and contempt, Job's friends took note, their expressions a canvas of shock and judgment. Why would God allow this? They murmured. What sin led him to this fate? Each gaze pierced Job, 1,000 unasked questions hanging heavy in the air. The divine seemed distant, as if mocking his plight. Can faith survive the unbearable weight of suffering? Can one man's belief challenge the mighty? As another wave of shock crashed through him, Job still held on to that flickering flame inside, refusing to let the shadows snuff it out. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the aftermath of calamity, Job found himself enveloped in a thick fog of confusion and isolation. The world he once knew filled with laughter, love, and abundance had crumbled into a wasteland of grief. The sun rose, yet its warmth felt further away than it ever had, as if it too mourned alongside him. As days bled into one another, remnants of his former life haunted him, whispering of joy now replaced by sorrow. Job sat in the dust, the earth cool beneath him, yet it felt like quicksand pulling him deeper into despair. Each shrill cry of the mourners and each hushed tone of his friends dug deeper into his soul. Their faces, once familiar, now brimmed with pity, their eyes flickering like candles in a storm. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zopharman, who had walked alongside him in plenty, now stood before him as towering figures of judgment, their words cloaked in righteous indignation. "Surely, Job, there must be some sin hidden in your heart, some transgression unconfessed. God does not punish the innocent," they proclaimed, yet their voices felt like rusted nails driving deeper into his spirit. Though their intentions may have been noble, Job sensed a growing chasm between their understanding and his suffering. In their relentless pursuit of answers, they overlooked the essence of his despair. Job felt the weight of their scrutiny pressing down upon him, a pressure that felt as suffocating as the loss itself. One evening, unwilling to merely endure the storm of their accusations any longer, he spoke, his voice trembling but resolute. "Is it not easy to judge from afar?" he uttered, his words laced with the bitterness of betrayal. "Have you walked in my shoes? Have you felt the ache of loss so profound? How can you serve as my judges when you know not the depth of my anguish? Surely I am more than a vessel of sin, more than a riddle to be solved by your minds. The silence that followed was heavy, as if creation itself paused to absorb his pain. In the stillness, Job's heart began to wrestle with the divine. Was he not a man of faith? He remembered how he had offered sacrifices for his children, just in case they had unknowingly sinned. Could his devotion have triggered this calamity? The thought twisted like a knife within him. As night fell, the stars blinked down at him, silent witnesses to his plight, ancient and timeless. Job gazed upward, searching the expanse for answers, yet finding only silence in return. Why, O Lord? Have I not been faithful? Have I not honored you with my life and my offerings? Can I not seek you in my anguish? His cries echoed through the night, swallowed by the vastness surrounding him. Meanwhile, the adversary, still lurking just beyond perception, watched the scene unfold with great intrigue. To the shadow, Job had become a battleground, a test of spiritual resilience that rippled through realms unseen. Every tear Job shed and every doubt that crept into his heart was noted, measured, weighed in a sinister balance. Job's resolve, however, remained as stubborn as the night sky. Even amidst his shattering doubts and the darkness encroaching around him, he still reached for the flickers of faith that threatened to go out. As he closed his eyes, he pondered a profound question: could the spirit endure even when the body was weak? In this crucible of fiery trials, what could possibly emerge from the deep suffering of one man? In the depths of his torment, Job was left standing on the precipice of despair and hope. What awaited him would lead him further into the heart of the mystery, where pain and faith intertwined, and the answers he sought delved deeper than flesh could conceive. Would he find clarity, or would the fog only thicken in the mournful silence? As the dawn broke over the desolate landscape, Job's heart felt heavier than the previous day. The sun peeked timidly through the edges of cloud, casting pale shadows across the dust where he sat. He heard the whispers of the wind, brushing against the bare branches like a sigh, and he puzzled over how nature could seem so peaceful when his world lay shattered. Could it be that the very earth under him resonated with the grief he bore? The sounds of his friend still lingered in the air, their relentless questioning an echo bouncing off the walls of his spirit. He wrestled with their words, wondering if perhaps they were right in their declarations. Imagine, he thought, if there indeed lay sin hidden in the recesses of my heart. Yet, the notion felt as foreign as the very devastation that had befallen him. Job took a deep breath, steadying himself amidst the storm within, an internal tempest rivaling the external calamity that in this silence, after the tempers of frustration and despair began to settle, he felt something new awaken inside him, a tenuous thread of courage. Could his lament become a conversation with the Almighty? What if his questions were prayers, his cries a form of worship? Job resolved to lift his voice in honesty, and he directed his attention toward the heavens, an audience with God. Lord, why dost thou afflict me so? He cried, wrestling with the weight of anguish he bore alone. If I am guilty, I wish to understand my transgressions. Show me the error of my ways, that I may repent and seek thy forgiveness. But if I am innocent, why this relentless storm upon my soul? His voice trembled but rang clear against the silence, each word a pebble cast into the depths of eternity. Yet, as he waited for response, the stillness seemed to deepen. Was there a greater purpose to his suffering? He felt a stirring within him, a voice whispering that the journey was not merely about his punishment, but perhaps a larger narrative unfolding. Wisdom crept in, revealing that suffering often carries with it a burden of wisdom not easily perceived. Every wretched moment, every tear that flowed, seemed intertwined with a history greater than his own. Maybe his pain was not just about him. Was there a chance it might ripple through to others who bore their own burdens? The sun ascended higher, illuminating the barren ground around him, and a flicker of understanding ignited within his heart. In his suffering lay the potential for profound connection with those around him, who also faced their own invisible wars. Perhaps his perseverance could remind others alone in their grief that the path of faith is not devoid of hardships, but rather, it encompasses them. His friends, still perplexed by their own convictions, resumed their discussions. They noted Job's unwavering faithfulness as if measuring the strength of his heart against the weight of his calamity. Though they spoke without understanding, Job found himself caught between their judgments and the stirring revelation that faith could be a refuge in its own right, a sanctuary during the fiercest storms. At that moment, in the stillness between breaths, Job grasped that perhaps God was not distant but held within the very fabric of his suffering. By daring to reach beyond despair, might he not just stumble upon solace, but reshape the very story written upon his heart? As he pondered this, another question washed over him, bringing with it both dread and hope. Could the depth of his anguish actually lead him closer to the truth of the divine? Must he first traverse the wilderness of suffering before discovering the wellspring of faith hidden within? As Job lingered in the quiet of his heart, a strange stillness enveloped him, almost as if the earth was holding its breath alongside him. He contemplated the nature of his cries and the weight of his suffering. The sun, now climbing higher in the sky, brought warmth that clashed with the chill in his spirit. And as the shadows danced, Job realized there was a darkness that seemed to extend far beyond his physical surroundings. Perhaps, he mused, the shadows that linger in the hearts of men are often deeper than the tangible storms that rage in the world. Job thought of his companions, their faces etched in concern as they questioned his faithfulness. They approached him with the intention of consolation, yet each word felt like a stone thrown in his direction. Did they not see the depth of his torment? Did they understand that the essence of his struggle was the yearning for understanding, not merely the weight of grief? In this moment of reflection, Job began to see glimpses of the challenge that lay before him, not merely to endure suffering but to engage with it. Could it be that my outcry is a sacred expression, a wrestling with the divine? He contemplated the stories of old, of men who wrestled angels, who sought God through the very trials that sought to undo them. As he sat, a thought pierced the fog of his confusion. What if my anguish is intertwined with the anguish of others? Could it be that the burdens I carry resonate deeply with the burdens of the afflicted around me? Job closed his eyes, imagining the faces of those in the villages beyond his own home, mothers weeping for lost children, fathers lost in despair, those suffering from illnesses of both body and spirit. In that instant, he felt as though his suffering was knitting him together with them, threads of sorrow binding them in an indelible tapestry of shared humanity. Then, from the depths of his being, a new question arose: Lord, could my pain serve as a channel through which your grace might flow to others? Can it be that this is the greater purpose of my trials? Job's heart quickened at the thought, an inkling forming that perhaps humility and vulnerability were the very keys to unlock the mysteries of faith. He gazed at his friends, still discussing, their voices growing louder yet more distant, like a murmur from some far-off place. Each declaration they made regarding sin or justice felt heavier yet hollow. They offered solutions without understanding the heart of the matter. How can one possess the answers when they don't know the depths of suffering? Job longed for deeper communion that transcended mere explanations, a bond formed not by words but by shared fellowship, crafted not merely in sympathy but in empathy. Would it not speak louder than any theological argument? Thus, he considered that perhaps his suffering was a burden not just to be carried, but to be shared. As he contemplated their discussions, it became apparent that their limitations were no fault of their own. They spoke from a place of fear, devoid of the understanding that to truly engage with hardship was to embrace divine mystery. Could it be, he pondered, that their intentions are noble yet misguided, and that my own truth lies in the willingness to endure this trial openly? Job's voice, steady and true, broke through the fabric of their deliberations. What if my suffering is not solely punishment but an invitation to explore the divine? A hush fell over his companions, and they turned to him in surprise. What if we are called to seek understanding in the reluctance of our hearts, rather than a safety in our interpretations? Pondering the implications of this thought, Job felt a surge of questioning, more profound and unsettling than any before. Could the act of questioning be an act of faith itself? In standing with his own pain, could he also stand in solidarity with the pain of mankind? As these thoughts mingled within him, a new sense of purpose began to unfurl, a yearning to unearth what faith truly means amid suffering. As silence wrapped around him, another question began to echo in the hollow chambers of his heart: in confronting the depth of my anguish, might I discover not just answers but a connection to the divine heart of suffering itself? What if the very act of questioning, with all its uncertainty, could lead me closer to both God and humanity? As Job's thoughts flowed deep into the stillness, he felt a tremor in the air, as though the ground beneath him quivered with curiosity. It was an unsettling message, transmitted not through words, but through the very essence of his solitude. The world felt both vast and intimate, an expanse of possibilities thick with divine enigmas waiting to be unraveled. His friends stared at him, no longer speaking, their brows furrowed in contemplation, as if Job's revelations floated like clouds, ready to release the rain of fresh understanding. He met their gazes, seeing the flickers of change in their expressions. Had they turned their eyes inward, to unearth their own questions? Job hoped they might glimpse the latent mystery his suffering harbored, a miracle intertwined not merely with divine sovereignty but human fragility. It seems, he began softly, his voice carrying both warmth and steel, that we have approached this matter as though we were standing outside the storm rather than wading through its depths. Each assertion is like a bandaging of wounds we may not fully comprehend. What if, in our attempts to heal, we are concealing the very rawness that brings us close to each other and to God? His friends shifted uneasily, wrestling with their own understanding. But Job, you are undeniably afflicted, one of them countered, desperation lining his voice. Surely, your suffering cannot be merely an entrance into fellowship. There must be a reason, a sin unspoken, a fall from divine favor. Job's heart sank momentarily, caught in the web of their traditional beliefs. Yet, he pressed forward, inspired by his quest for a profound connection. What if our traditional beliefs are manifestations of fear, preventing us from truly entering into the rawness of life? What if God has not distanced himself but rather hovers gently, urging us to see beyond the veil of our judgments? For a heartbeat, silence descended once more, encompassing them like a sacred cocoon. Job could feel the divine inquiry weaving through the air. The notion of God not as a distant judge but a compassionate observer resonated with him. There, in the quietude, the boundaries of their understanding began to blur. Job ventured deeper into his assertion, perhaps my pain serves as a mirror. In recognizing my suffering, I invite others to acknowledge theirs the deep, aching sense of abandonment, loss, and uncertainty that breathes within all of us. With each word, Job reached for a deeper truth. He recalled the countless tales of suffering throughout history, the great patriarchs, the marginalized, the wayfarers. Thousands upon thousands had borne their own burdens, and in the cracks of their existences lay stories of resilience and questions that intertwined them with God in honest discourse. His friend's skepticism faltered. But what then? One asked, bewildered. What hope lies in pain, if not the promise of restoration? How can we be restored without understanding the reason behind affliction? Job pondered this aloud, feeling the weight of his words shift around them. What if restoration exists not in understanding before suffering but within the embrace of it? Can our healing be in acknowledging the questions rather than seeking unyielding answers? The suggestion hung heavy in the air, tentative and raw, resonating against the fabric of their fellowship. The wind rustled nearby, combing through the dry leaves like an ancient whisper. They seemed alive, eager to echo the longing of Job's heart. What if, instead of fearing the questions, we let them guide us toward the heart of God? He posited, awakening curiosity once more among them. A flicker of vulnerability illuminated Job's countenance. In our willingness to accept our questions, our grief, our disbelief, we may just encounter the sacred. Might our doubts be the very seeds that can blossom into trust? Would the courage to ask, to cry out in agony or confusion, serve as an avenue to a fuller relationship with the divine and one another? As they mulled over Job's reflections, he felt a tangible thread of connection weaving through the air, one that drew them closer together as men who dared to ask the hard questions. He sensed a divine presence, not as distant or punitive but as near as an intimate friend standing beside him, a force urging him ever deeper into the explorations of faith through suffering. Yet, a lingering unease settled in Job's chest. Could an embrace of uncertainty truly lead them closer to God? And might the courage to question themselves then challenge the very ground upon which they stood, forcing them to reconcile their beliefs with an ever more mysterious and unfathomable deity? In that moment, Job realized that perhaps the deepest connection forged in suffering was an invitation to enter the heart of divine questioning. As they sat, Job's heart quickened anew, realizing that in wondering aloud, he might yet unearth the sacred mystery concealed within their trials. What if embracing suffering was not a departure from understanding but a pathway to discovering God's greater narrative, a testament that through question, communion is born? As the shadows lengthened around them, the sun casting golden rays through the thorny branches, Job sensed a shift within himself and in those around him. The quiet tension they had shared began to mature into a fruitful soil teeming with budding insight. Each man, caught in a web of their own thoughts, grappled with the profound implications of Job's words. What if our interpretations of suffering are mere reflections of our fear? Is it not a reflection of a deeper truth that eludes our grasp? Job asked, his heart heavier than the stones beneath his feet. His companions avoided his gaze, looking instead to the sky above, searching for answers that seemed to hover just out of reach. Eliphaz, who had been the first to voice concern over Job's condition, broke the silence. These are questions that strike at the very core of our beliefs, Job. We are taught to fear suffering, to see it as a punishment after a misdeed, but what if you are right? What if our understanding is flawed? What do we do then? The weight of Eliphaz's words hung in the air, and Job felt the fabric of their collective faith fray slightly at the edges. Could it be that the well-trodden paths of explanations they had relied on might lead them astray? What lay beyond the traditional boundaries of their faith? He contemplated this and replied thoughtfully, in accepting the inconsistencies within our beliefs, could we uncover the very essence of faith itself? Perhaps rather than turning away from suffering, we should draw closer to it, allowing it to expand our understanding, rather than confining us. In the distance, a solitary bird took flight, piercing the stillness of the air with its sharp cry, awakening a deeper yearning among them. It was as if the very earth shared in Job's struggle, echoing the complexities of human suffering through the realms of nature. Yet, if we accept that suffering is part of a larger purpose, mustn't we also accept that there are things we might never comprehend? Bildad interjected, his voice heavy with the weight of tradition. Is it not better to seek reason than to dwell in confusion? Job felt the urgency behind Bildad's question, sensing the veiled apprehension in his companion's heart. What if, Bildad, reason can be found within confusion? The questions we combat may lead us to deeper revelations. The group fell into a reflective hush, contemplating the tension between reason and faith, between inquiry and certainty. In this sacred space of dialogue, the air thickened with an unspoken question that struck Job more profoundly than all the others. Could their craving for answers hinder them from experiencing the divine presence right within their struggles? Suddenly, the stillness was broken by a rustling among the nearby thicket. The friends exchanged anxious glances as an unknown figure emerged, cloaked in shadow, bearing the unmistakable weight of someone who had traversed a great distance. Is it not the questions that lead you closer to the heart of God? The figure spoke, their voice carrying an echo of both authority and wisdom. Job felt his pulse quicken, recognizing this stranger as someone remarkable, one whose presence seemed to ignite a flicker of hope within his darkness. The figure continued, you speak of suffering, but have you truly invited it to teach you about love? So often, you seek to understand it, to box it in neat explanations, but suffering thrives in the space of unknowing. Job leaned closer, feeling each word resonate with the truths he was beginning to unearth. Might we not discover that our encounters with mystery through our pain, doubt, and vulnerability bring us closer to one another as companions in this fragile existence? The very heart of God pulses in our shared experience. The stranger smiled knowingly, yet the gravity of the moment remained, as if a doorway to a deeper reality waited to be opened. Embrace your questions, Job, for they may lead you down the path to understanding that transcends the mind and penetrates the soul. In the tension of uncertainty, you might find the answers were never meant to be singular. What you seek is woven through the fabric of your collective struggles. As the figure began to fade back into the thicket, Job stood astounded, the flickering embers of hope igniting a fire within him. His friends, too, felt the weight of the stranger's words settle into their bones, each man grappling with the newness of this perspective. Yet, as the day drew to a close, doubt clawed at the corners of joy. What if embracing suffering and uncertainty truly led to a deeper communion with one another and God? Would they have the courage to explore this path together, to open their hearts to the sacred questions that lay ahead? And in this moment of introspection, an unanswerable question lingered in the air: if they were to step into the vast unknown of faith, would they then wander with hope, encouraged by the beauty found within the agony of their shared existence. As twilight merged into night, the air grew thick with a silence that pulsed with potential. Job lifted his gaze to the scattered stars, their light twinkling like tiny answers that lingered at the edges of the universe, yet always out of reach. The journey of his heart had taken him to unsettling places, places where faith and doubt danced together in a delicate balance. His companions remained deep in thought, each wrestling with the emerging ideas that had cracked the foundations of their long-held beliefs. "This journey we're on," Job pondered out loud, "it feels as if we've only scraped the surface. What lies beneath wants to be uncovered but asks for our participation." Eliphaz nodded slowly, the lines of worry etched deeply across his brow beginning to soften. "But how do we participate without falling prey to despair? If we are to embrace suffering, do we not risk being consumed by it?" Job turned to him earnestly, sensing the fragility of their spirits. "Perhaps it is not so much about being consumed as it is about being transformed. Suffering carries with it a strange gift if we let it, the gift of profound understanding. Only when we allow ourselves to feel the weight of our pain can we rise to appreciate the lightness of hope." Bildad, still skeptical, shifted uneasily. A furrow graced his forehead as he countered, "Acknowledging pain is one thing, finding purpose in it is another. Do we not invite chaos into our world when we seek understanding beyond our sight?" In that moment, Job felt the air ripple, as if the very ground was responding to his friend's doubts. Could it not be that chaos, too, holds the sacred seed of creation? Just as a seed must break apart before it sprouts, might our own doubts be the very catalyst for growth? As the stars glimmered down upon them like distant sentinels, a gentle breeze swept through the thicket. It felt as if the very cosmos conspired with their thoughts, drawing them into a deeper contemplation. The universe itself seemed to whisper secrets of an infinite nature, echoing Job's heart, resonating the need for connection. The weight of Job's words lingered in the stillness, until a soft voice broke through. It was the stranger once more, stepping forth with a presence that commanded both fear and curiosity. "Your struggle is not in vain, nor is it unique to you alone. The path of faith is woven through the questions that leave you restless. Dig deep, for it is the roots of doubt that bear the strength for true faith to flourish." Job felt a surge of energy within, recognizing that the stranger's words illuminated a vital truth. But how do we cultivate faith in the wake of suffering and uncertainty? How do we share the burden of our questions without losing ourselves in them? The stranger looked upon them with eyes that bore the weight of centuries. "Faith is not the absence of doubt, but the courage to walk alongside it. You must share your burdens, your thoughts, and fears. Speak them aloud as a collective offering." As the figure began to dissolve into the shadows, Job's heart raced. The idea of becoming a community of questioners, where every doubt was not a stumbling block but rather a stepping stone, felt monumental. Could they, in their vulnerability, build a new kind of faith together? His friends turned to one another, a flicker of understanding igniting within their shared gazes. Job's heart echoed the growing realization that the journey they were on was no longer singular, it was a shared pilgrimage, fraught with mysteries yet to be unveiled. As night enveloped them in its dark embrace, the only sound was the gentle rustle of leaves, and with it came a deeper question that lingered in the mind of each man: if the power of their faith was hidden within their willingness to question openly, would they have the strength to seek the answers that lay tangled within their shared uncertainty? The stillness of the night deepened as the stars spun their tales, and the air throbbed with an electric anticipation. Job and his companions had settled into an unspoken agreement to explore the landscapes of their hearts and minds. Their fears and doubts hung between them like a delicate web, each thread a testament to the vulnerabilities they were only beginning to acknowledge. Eliphaz broke the silence, his voice threading through the crisp night air. "Do we not risk exposing ourselves too much? To speak is to reveal, and in revealing, we uncover our wounds. What if our words lead us to places beyond our ability to understand?" Job knew the weight of Eliphaz's concern but felt a flicker of hope dance in his chest. "But what if instead of being exposed, we are freed? Our burdens would lose their grip when shared. What appears as weakness can transform into a shared strength." Bildad gazed at the flickering shadows cast by their fire. Perhaps what we fear most is not vulnerability itself, but what follows the judgment of those who hear our questions. Will they not see our uncertainty as failure, or as humanity? Job replied, a smile forming upon his lips. Every soul knows doubt, it is the heartbeat of the journey. It binds us together in a tapestry of understanding. What if we offer our questions not as admissions of defeat but as invitations to join in a search for truth? As they mulled over his words, it was then that they heard a whisper that flowed through the rustling leaves, gentle yet insistent. The world around them felt alive, as if the very essence of creation listened attentively to their conversation. It was as if the cosmos had gathered in solemn council, awaiting the next word. Suddenly, the stranger reappeared, the ethereal glow around him pulsating in rhythm with the murmurs of the night. You ponder the weight of your words, yet here lies a deeper truth. The voice of your heart echoes in the universe, and in its resonance dwells the song of creation. To share your doubts is to align with the rhythm of existence itself. Job's pulse quickened as he heard those profound words. Then how do we resonate with that song? How do we ensure that our voice does not fade amidst the cacophony of fear and judgment? The stranger stepped closer, his presence radiating wisdom. Seek the roots of your questions, for within them lies your potential. Embrace the uncertainty that these inquiries stir, and do not fear the darkness it may uncover. True insight is often birthed from discomfort. Transformation is the child of chaos. A silence wrapped around the group as they fully absorbed the weight of the stranger's revelations. Could it be that their doubts, their fears, were not mere obstacles but vital signposts on this journey of discovery? Job felt a surge of confidence swell within him. Is it possible that the very act of questioning has the power to illuminate the path ahead? Can we dare to believe that our struggles can carve a passage toward light and understanding? The stranger regarded him with an intensity that made Job's heart race. To question is to weave your roots deeper into the soil of existence. Allow yourselves to dig, to unearth the mysteries hidden beneath the surface. For it is in that darkness that your true strength will flower, and you will find the true essence of your faith. As their eyes met, Job saw a flicker of determination ignite in the faces of his companions. They were no longer just an assemblage of individuals weighed down by doubt, they were co-pilgrims, ready to face the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Yet, as the night pressed on, unanswered questions still lingered in the air, heavy with potential. What awaited them on this journey into deeper truths? Would their resolve hold firm against the storms of uncertainty that loomed ahead, or would the weight of their own doubts prove too great in the quest for understanding? The dawn broke softly over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and rose as if to cradle the spirits of those who had braved the night's contemplations. Job, resting his head against the cool stone of the mountain, reflected on the stranger's words. It was as if the light of the new day was calling him to a greater understanding, stirring in him the desire to both grapple with and embrace the profound depths of uncertainty. The glow of the sun revealed the faces of his companions, their features etched with resolve yet shadowed by unspoken fears. A solemn understanding had formed among them, a collective decision to summon courage against the likes of which they had never faced. As they broke their fast together, the once dynamic conversation hesitated. They each felt the weight of a shared challenge yet to be named. Eliphaz, Job ventured, courage welling within him, you spoke of risk in revealing our wounds. What if the act of speaking cultivates a soil in which healing can take root? Are our words not worth the risk if they could nurture something transformative? Eliphaz looked at Job, searching for certainty in a world of ambiguity. It is one thing to ponder, Job, and another to bear witness to the scars we seek to keep hidden. Will we not expose ourselves to the elements of judgment and scorn? Yes, Bildad interjected gently, but are we not also exposing ourselves to the possibility of solidarity? In naming our wounds, we may also invite others into our grief, for every soul carries its cross. Perhaps in our truths, we may uncover the beauty of shared experience. Job felt a disposition to agree, yet his heart continued to wrestle with fear. The stranger's visage loomed in his memory, and he was reminded that the journey of truth often walks hand in hand with trepidation, like shadows trailing in the wake of every resolute step forward. As they spoke, a strong wind rushed down from the heights, sending ripples through their makeshift camp. The whispering trees beckoned them from afar, pushing against their resolve. It was within this stirring that Job sensed an invitation. The wilderness was alive with secrets, beckoning them to explore the shapes of their faith in all its fragility and strength. Shall we venture deeper into the mountain? Job proposed, rising to his feet. What holds within it might just illuminate that which we fear to confront. The group looked at one another, hesitant yet tempted by the call of exploration. It was Bildad who broke the stillness. Perhaps the act of facing the mountain is a metaphor for our own inner struggles. Climbing will require all of us, our voices, our fears, and our truths. With hushed murmurs of agreement, they began their ascent, winding their way through craggy paths lined with ancient boulders that had stood witness to the passage of time. Each step felt heavy with the weight of unvoiced questions, urging them into a landscape of both physical and spiritual challenge. As they climbed, the air thickened, charged with a mystery that seemed almost tangible. A strange glow slipped through the trees, illuminating portions of their path as if directing their steps. Job paused to take in the sights, his heart edging toward a revelation. Could it be that the beauty in the unknown lies not solely in discovery but in the act of seeking itself? Yet, the closer they got to their destination, the more a sense of foreboding gathered around them, wrapping them in its embrace. One last question echoed in Job's mind: what awaited them at the summit, and would the truth they sought be as illuminating as the dawn that beckoned them onward, or would it bring forth the storms of despair? As Job and his friends pressed onward, their breath synchronized with the rhythm of the mountain. The air grew thin and electric. Each step was laden with a burgeoning sense of both anxiety and anticipation, like the solemn stillness that precedes a tempest. They finally reached a clearing just shy of the summit, where the earth met the sky, and for a moment, they halted to gaze upon the breathtaking panorama laid before them, a landscape drenched in colors that only the Creator could conjure. But amidst this woven tapestry of vibrant beauty lay the silent echo of their questions. What revelation awaited them at this height? What answers could possibly descend upon them from the heavens, echoing through the corridors of uncertainty? Job's heart thrummed with a curious mix of hope and dread. He turned to his companions, 3 men transformed by their shared journey, each face illuminated by the golden light of dawn and the shadows of unspoken fears. "Here," Job said, his voice trembling yet unwavering. "We have climbed this mountain not merely to seek answers, but to confront our uncertainties together. Let us lay bare our questions, for it is within them that we might discover the sacred truth we yearn for." Eliphaz, emboldened by the atmosphere, stepped forward, his brow furrowed with contemplation. "But Job, what if our questions lead to more confusion? What if we have already reached the pinnacle only to find more precipices beyond our grasp?" Rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating Eliphaz's features, and Job took a breath, letting the warmth envelop him. What if confusion is not the end? What if it is a fertile ground from which understanding can sprout? Perhaps we need to stop fearing what lies beyond our control and engage in the beauty of the unknown together. Bildad stirred, still grappling with apprehension. And if we uncover truths we're unprepared to bear? Lives have been altered by the weight of wisdom, some lessons are burdensome. Job gazed deeply into the eyes of his friends. If we shrink from the burdens we carry, are we not burdening our hearts further with fear? To walk together in this realm of uncertainty would bring us closer, connect us in compassion. Mayhaps our purpose is intertwined with our pain, inviting us to transcend our individual strife. With that, a silvery mist rolled down from the mountain peaks, suffusing the gathering with an otherworldly presence. The air vibrated with an almost palpable essence, a whisper of divine secrets beckoning from the abyss, calling forth the deepest threads of human experience. And then they heard a voice, resonant and ancient, draping over them like a cloak. "Job, you have thrived in your struggles, and yet the journey of faith is complex. Ask, and you shall find; seek, and the deeper truths you desire will speak to your hearts." Job fell to his knees, stunned by the ethereal presence that enveloped him. "Lord, I have searched for clarity in my pain and sought transformation in my trials. Will you unravel the mystery of my suffering before my eyes?" The voice, gentle yet powerful, reverberated through the hollow space of his soul. "Your suffering is not destined for mere comprehension, it is the cradle of connection that binds your heart to the hearts of others. Suffering knits the tapestry of humanity together. Yours is a story that flows through the veins of countless others. "You are not alone." In that moment, the weight of isolation began to dissipate as a sense of belonging infused Job's spirit. He felt the collective resonance of every person who had grappled with hope amid despair, every question that had leapt from a soul yearning for understanding. His heart thundered with realization. Sacrifice and suffering were stepping stones, not shackles. Job rose, his face aglow with the light of newfound understanding. It is through shared suffering that we also unveil the sacred gift of grace. We are woven together, our faith carried not in solitary moments but in community. This struggle leads to love, extends compassion, and invites us to discover our purpose. The mist began to lift, revealing the three friends, their faces a tapestry of wonder and newfound clarity. With every breath, they inhaled the essence of truth. They were transformed by the act of sharing, no longer veiled in fear but liberated by the questions that had lingered. Eliphaz, renewed with a glint of courage, spoke softly, "Could it be that our purpose lies not in strict adherence to doctrine, but in the embrace of one another's burdens? To embrace suffering, rather than abide by judgment, that is the essence of faith," murmured Bildad, his voice stronger now. "It lies in the honesty of our struggles and the vulnerability in our questions. To walk together as we wrestle with our stories." The wind swept past them in gusts, almost a cheer from the cosmos, and Job felt a swell of joy that sprouted from the realization of divine unity in their shared pain. He lifted his arms to the sky, a gesture of surrender and acceptance. "Together, we embrace our brokenness and transform it into a testament of resilience. Let us move forward as a testament to faith born from inquiry and love." Then, as they stood at the edge of the world, over the horizons of uncertainty and onto the precipice of understanding, Job felt a profound sense of peace wash over him, a divine closure that echoed inside and out, the soul's reflection gleaming in the vastness of the universe. In that moment, they were no longer just men clinging to their beliefs but living expressions of shared humanity, ready to dive into the depths of life with faith blossoming in their hearts. The echoes of their journey imbued with an everlasting truth, that the beauty of existence weaves itself through the intricate dance of faith, doubt, and above all, the courage to ask, to venture, and to love. And with that realization, Job gazed towards the horizon, where the sun broke fully from behind a veil of clouds, spilling gold and amber light across the earth. Every ray whispered a promise. Life, in all its complexities, held the transformative power of grace when we dared to share our hearts, connect deeply, question honestly, and walk together in the embrace of our shared pilgrimage through both suffering and triumph. Their stories became a powerful symphony, echoing through ages, one that called to every soul bearing its burdens, inviting a world into witnessing the power of questioning. For it is through inquiry that the heart fully awakens, and with each step, the journey of understanding begins anew.